The woman who received a letter from herself, 20 years in the future. The letter had my name on it. The handwriting was mine. But the date on the letter was 20 years in the future. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel for more emotional African folktales based on realistic events. Now, let's begin. My name is Amaka, and what happened to me still makes me uncomfortable whenever I remember it. I was 26 years old when I received the letter. At that time, I lived alone in a small rented apartment in Enugu. I worked at a private school as a secretary. My life was simple. I went to work in the morning, returned home in the evening, cooked my food, watched television, and slept. I was also engaged to a man named Daniel. Daniel was a mechanic. We had been together for almost 4 years. I trusted him completely. At least, I thought I did. One rainy Tuesday evening, I returned home and found a brown envelope lying under my door. There was no stamp, no address, only my full name was written on the front. Amaka Nwankwe picked it up and looked around. Nobody was in the corridor. I opened the envelope. Inside was one sheet of old paper. The first sentence made my hands shake. Amaka, if you are reading this, please do not marry Daniel. I stopped reading. I thought somebody was playing a cruel joke on me. Then I noticed the handwriting. It looked exactly like mine. Even the way I wrote the letter day was the same. At the bottom of the page was a date, August 8, 2046. I looked at the calendar on my wall. It was 2026. 20 years separated the two dates. I laughed nervously. Maybe somebody had copied my handwriting. Maybe it was some kind of prank. I put the letter inside a drawer and forgot about it. At least, I tried to. The next morning, I told my best friend, Rita. She laughed when I showed her the letter. "Someone is trying to scare you," she said. "I know," I replied. "But who?" Rita had no answer. That evening, Daniel came to see me. I almost told him about the letter, but something stopped me. Instead, I watched him carefully. For the first time, I noticed how often he checked his phone. When I asked who was calling, he said it was a customer. I believed him. 3 days later, another envelope appeared under my door. This one had only 3 words: "You ignored me." My heart started beating faster. I opened it. The second letter said, "Do not tell Daniel about the letters. You already made that mistake once." I could not sleep that night. The next morning, I went to Rita's house. I showed her the second letter. She stopped laughing. "Amaka, this is not funny anymore." We decided to find out who was sending them. We checked the security camera at my apartment building. The camera showed a woman leaving an envelope outside my door around 11:40 p.m. Her face was covered with a scarf, but there was something strange. The woman walked with a slight limp. Rita looked at the screen. "I know that walk." I asked her who it was. She shook her head. "I am not sure." 2 days later, another letter arrived. This time, the handwriting looked rushed. "Go to the old house on Ogui Road. Check the box under the stairs." I knew the house. It belonged to my grandmother before she died. Nobody had lived there for years. That weekend, Rita went with me. We entered the old house in the afternoon. Dust covered everything. We searched under the stairs. There was an old wooden box. Inside were photographs, school papers, and several letters. My hands became cold. The letters were written by my grandmother. One of them mentioned my mother. Another mentioned a man named Peter. I knew that name. Peter was my mother's first husband. My father had always told me my mother was widowed before she met him, but the letters told a different story. Peter had not died. He had left the family after stealing money from my grandmother's business. My mother had been ashamed and never told anyone. Then I found another document. It was a hospital report. The name on it was Daniel's father. I felt sick. Daniel's father had once worked with my grandmother. The report showed that he had been involved in the same financial problem. Suddenly, Daniel's family history looked very different. I called Daniel. He came to the old house. When I asked him about his father, he became angry. "Why are you asking me these questions?" "Because someone is sending me letters." His face changed. "What letters?" I showed him one. He stared at it for a long time. Then he said something that frightened me. I have seen that handwriting before, where, in my mother's old documents. I stepped back. Daniel admitted that his mother had known about my grandmother's money. He also admitted that he had been trying to find some old documents because his family believed my grandmother had hidden money before she died. I felt betrayed. The man I planned to marry had been hiding things from me. But the biggest shock came later. That night, another envelope appeared. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a photograph. It showed me standing beside an older woman. The older woman had grey hair. She had the same scar above her eyebrow that I had. On the back of the photograph were the words, "This is you at 46. I stared at the woman. She looked exactly like me, but I still did not know who had sent the letters. Then Rita called me. "Amaka, come outside." I stepped into the street. A woman was standing across the road. She was wearing a long dress and holding a brown envelope. She walked toward me slowly. When she came closer, I saw her face. She was older, much older. But there was no doubt, she was me. I could not speak. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I knew you would finally listen," she said. Asked her how it was possible. She did not answer. Instead, she gave me one final letter. "Read this after I leave." Then she walked away. I opened the letter. It said, "I am not from the future. I am your mother." My hands went numb. The woman I had seen was not me. She was my mother. She had aged badly because of years of illness, but the family resemblance had fooled me. The letters were not from the future either. My mother had written them years earlier. She had discovered that Daniel's family was looking for my grandmother's missing documents. She knew Daniel had become close to me because of those documents. She had tried to warn me without exposing herself. The date on the first letter was not 2046. It was written in a strange way because my mother had copied the date from an old family document. I had misunderstood it. The whole mystery suddenly made sense. My mother had wanted me to discover the truth myself. I ended my relationship with Daniel. The police later investigated his family's connection to my grandmother's stolen money. Some of the old documents were recovered. Daniel moved away. I never saw him again. Years have passed since that night. Sometimes people still ask me if I truly received the letter from my future self. I smile. I tell them no. I received something more important. I received a warning from a mother who was afraid her daughter was walking into the same mistake that had damaged her own life. And whenever I remember that first letter, I still remember the words, "Amaka, if you are reading this, please do not marry Daniel." I almost ignored it. If I had, my life could have been very different. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more emotional African folktales based on realistic events. See you in the next story.